There is an idea that connects well with the idea of transhumanism that I treated the last time. It has to do with the concept of the world as composed of information and nothing but information. Just pick up the image of you and all and everything surrounding you, from the tea in your teacup on the table, the trees in the garden, your car, the planets we live on, and the sun together with all the stars in the universe to consist of nothing but bits and bytes. What an interesting view. I have already talked about the world, the entire cosmos being nothing but consciousness coagulating into matter via the quantum level. So why not just consider information to be the prima materia? Let me start where we left off when considering the human body. Geneticists will argue that the codes hidden in the DNA string are what makes the first single cell develop into a human body and not into a wolf, an eagle, a fish or a flower. These codes are built into the genes using only four different chemical components: the nucleic bases, adenine, cytosine, guanine and thymine. These four components are found in the DNA of every living thing on Earth, genetically encoded in the simplest bacteria and in complex beings like us. It is possible to consider this encoding as information, just like binary bits and bytes make up the program that runs a computer. The binary code is shorter than the DNA code, consisting of zeros and ones only. But whether that is really important, I leave an open question right here. Let me start by picking up the binary code. Take the digit 1. I cannot pick it apart, it is whole. Dividing it into fractions like 5 times 0.2 does not change anything. Its operational value is 1 and only 1. The same goes for 0. Thus we may conclude that the digital binary language consists of 2 letters, both with a unique meaning of 1 or 0, on or off. I am sure you will now say that we can build worlds from these 2 components by combining them into bytes consisting of unique sequences of 8 zeros and 1s, and you are right. This is exactly how we formulate program instructions. Long strings of such bytes are exactly what works in a computer at its deepest levels. All modern programming instruction sits on top of this code. So what is the difference between the genetic code and the machine code? First of all, the 4 basic components of the genetic code are vastly more complex than the binary units. Well, you cannot decompose the binary units into anything other than fractions. The A, C, T, G are products of a number of chemical elements that are also possible to break down into yet another number of different units, all the way down to the quantum level where matter itself is generated. Let me take you all the way through just one of these letters, the cytosine, the C. Its chemical formula is C4H3N2O, which is to say that it is a molecule composed of 4 different basic elements: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. The 3 remaining nucleotides are similarly composed. In the table of elements, they are arranged according to the number of protons in their atomic nucleus, and by their chemical properties, which mainly is their capacity to bind to other elements. In the first chapter of this, I took you all the way into the depth of core particles of an atom, the proton or the neutron. We discovered that they were not particles but a combination of 3 quarks. These are presently considered to part of the quantum particles. I will not repeat all I said, but these point particles are here. I only reiterate that they are as close to non-existing as we may imagine. They appear and disappear in different qualities and fractions of seconds, making matter at the most basic level even seem like a flimsy fog. Basically, these quantum particles seem to divide and what to become by combining to the atoms, the elements of matter, the elements that matter consists of, the atoms. From this step, all chemical combinations are produced, and this goes for the 4 letters of the DNA programming language too. Now let us move up to the cellular level. A human cell contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, in all 46. One single chromosome contains between a few hundred to several thousand genes, and humans have somewhere between 20 and 23,000 genes. These genes determine almost every detail of an individual's traits, from the gender to the eye and skin color, to any illness he or she may more or less easily contract, like obesity, cancer, diabetes. It is part of the heritage received from the parents. The entire genetic code makes up the DNA double helix, hidden within every cell of the body, reproduced from the very first cell building the fetus. Thus the genetic programming hidden within the 4 letters actually produce human individuals into exactly the one he and she becomes. If you consider this as a flow of quantum level to the full body level of a human being, you will see that the presence of consciousness in this entire process is not only essential, it is the process. I have already explained the presence of consciousness in the body. It is a flow in and through the body at every stage in its development and directing power of its entire life, as well as the producer of the cognitive and emotional consciousness we experience every day in our exchange and response with other people, animals, nature, and things in our surroundings. From this brief description of the 4-letter programming language of life, you will understand that it is hugely different from the binary code we use for computers and so-called artificial intelligence. When considering the digits 0 and 1, there are no deeper levels of description. They are just monodimensional numbers. Humans have invented numbers in order to take measures, calculate quantities, values of traded goods in ancient times. You may say that the binary code is just like, say, atoms. And when brought together into bytes of 8 or 16 digits, they form molecules carrying information that the program executes. You may even point to the fact that sequences of one program may be transferred to another and thus be inherited. You may even challenge my arguments explaining that present-day computers are programming themselves. In a sense, you're right. In some cases, sequences of programming may be inherited, and modern computers are flexible enough to create program code as a consequence of a certain input. You should even say that this is exactly how people develop reactional patterns to certain stimuli. Say just ordinary traffic situations. Even so, you are wrong. For what enables a computer to develop, say, reactional code, is the fact that the programs we have furnished it with are written exactly to enable such code to be internally produced when certain circumstances trigger already coded sequences in the commanding software. The computer cannot produce code that is not already prepared. It cannot decide. The man-computer relation may well be considered Cartesian. Consciousness sits outside the machine in the programmer's head, and the only link via the electrical network and the program feeding procedures. Thus there is only program execution, no intelligence in a computer, but it handles information, and that is the topic here. So let me return to information. It is unproblematic to accept that both the 4-letter DNA code and the binary computer code carries information. You know, each one of the 4 programming letters of the DNA are information carriers, just like the binary code. They are fundamentally something else. One important fact is to note that these molecules are not man-made. Even though we may create each one of those molecules in a laboratory, as we create thousands of other chemicals and by combining elements, we are unable to reach the exact information they carry. We cannot read how the nucleotide information develops a living being. Human consciousness and cognitive consciousness handles billions of bits of information a second, reads, sorts, selects and processes that which is important, readying it for our immediate action. Consciousness is necessary in order to comprehend and work with information. Therefore, to compare the information that builds the universe, our world and us, with the information, plain and flat, of computer code is ridiculous. To produce, transmit and understand information requires consciousness. Thus, every argument that the universe is composed of information is to say that it is conscious. All life, every planet and star are fundamentally consciousness. Call it information if you will, but that information is embedded in cosmic consciousness. It is consciousness that translates immaterial information into matter and life.